It kind of starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, habitual coffee.
I think it's important to kind of stress that I've got sort of two sides to my business and personal life. We have a high production yard here. I've got a long history of show jumping in my family, and we've got a breeding facility here, and we're producing the top show jumping horses in the country right now. Daisy, my daughter, has ridden for GB, and we're really trying to develop the next line of show jumping horses. So in the morning, I have my yard hat on, and we go down to the yard. We make sure that we're all set up. We do a bit of mucking out. We have a look at where we are in terms of the plan with the horses, and then we go back to the office. Firstly, I love being around horses. They're incredible creatures. What better way to start the day? It's calming, but it's physical as well. I like the physical exertion of getting up, doing the mucking out, being around them. I also get a hands-on feel on how the yard is. You can walk into a yard and you can know whether there's stress, whether there's anxiety, and it's important that we know exactly how they're feeling, and there's no other way to do that. You can't do that through CCTV. You've got to be there in person. So yeah, I don't think there's any substitute for the hands-on approach. Before we bring them on, we breed them. So I love the science around the genetics, the lines, finding brood mares, finding the right stallions, and we're now into a very modern way of jumping. Show jumping has got very commercial. Yes, there is a lot of money in it at the top end, and that's ultimately where we're aiming to go. But in order to get there, I don't believe you should take any shortcuts. So first and foremost, we breed, and we breed some really, really good stock. We've got some of the best lines here in the UK, and we've bred with some of the best stallions. Once they're on the ground and I'm present at all foalings, I think that's really important. So these horses have known me since they were born, and we've produced them all the way through. The thing about a horse is very similar to a person. Each one is an individual. I think it's really important to take the time with them to understand how their brains work, to understand what their character is like, how they'll respond in certain situations. You've pretty much got one chance with every new event that you have with a horse. So it's really important that that new event is as positive as you can possibly make it, and you go into it thinking carefully about what the risks are. The things I'm talking about here are the first time you put a head collar on a foal, the first time the foal goes out into the field, the first time a horse has its feet done, or even get on a lorry or a horse box. So many people have so many challenges and problems, and I've bought horses that are 2, 3, 4 years old from other places in the past, and they've come with emotional scars. How they've got them, I don't know. What I can say is, I believe that horses anatomically, there's quite a few that can get to the top, but ultimately, have they got the right character? Have they got the right genetics? Have they had the right start in life? Have they had the right training? If you can eliminate all of those things along the way, I think you stand a much better chance of being what we are as a micro breeder and getting some horses to the very top of the sport. That's really my goal and my ambition. So, I love the animals, I love the process, but I am in it to get the result as well. The results are important. We are running a commercial operation here, so this isn't a hobby horse operation. This is a professional operation that's got to make money. You pay the price. It's as simple as that, but so does the horse, and that's more important. You always have this little niggle in the back of your mind when you face a situation. Something in your gut says it'll be okay. Whenever you think that, don't. You've always got to have the time and have the patience. It's easier said than done, and of course, I know. Saint here, of course, I've had stressful times and made the wrong decisions, but ultimately when you make the wrong decisions, the things go wrong, and they can go wrong really badly, really quickly, and you are dealing with a half-ton animal as well, so there's a danger to yourself. Generally, when something goes wrong, that horse will remember that for a long period of time. I mean, I've had situations where something tiny has changed within its environment. The other day I was riding past a bit of tractor equipment, and all I'd done was put a bit of rope on top of that tractor equipment, and it knew, and I was trying to figure out what it was looking at, and then I twigged it was just a bit of rope that was on top of a bit of tractor equipment that was not there the day before. And they're that acutely aware of their surroundings. So you've got to try your best, but ultimately yeah, when it goes wrong, it goes wrong. And you generally have got a lot of undoing. But preparation, time, um, and trying to do it the right way alleviates a lot of those mistakes. If you understand the individuals, you get varying degrees of success depending on how they learn. I'm currently backing 2 horses at the moment. One is really slow in the brain. Nothing wrong with him, just the way he processes information isn't instant. So you've got to do something with him one day, and you've got to let him go to bed, think about it, and then he comes out the next day and he's figured it out. I've got another one where you literally can be on him and you ask a question of him and he learns it straight away. Really, really sharp mind, really, really quick to learn. So the answer is sometimes you see results instantly, and sometimes you see results over a period of time. I've got another one that I just called Plan A. He has only got one plan. And I kind of knew that if his plan A was that he was going to jump, he'd be amazing. But if his plan A was going to be that he wasn't going to jump, there was no point in trying to persevere with him. Luckily, plan A does jump, so it's all on track for him. But yeah, I've had lots of horses that are incredibly talented, but they haven't fitted this yard. So we've kind of gone through a process. We've identified that they don't fit this environment, and we need to find them an environment that does suit them. And I think there's a huge responsibility, both in business and in animal welfare, to the individual. So you've got to make sure that if a horse doesn't suit you, you don't try and, get a round peg into a square hole. But you have a responsibility not just to palm them off because they don't suit you. You've got to find them the right home. You put a lot of time and effort and training into them, and it hasn't worked. And financially, you will take a loss. But does that mean that the horse has to end up in a lifestyle that it's not suited to? No, it doesn't. If you're a breeder and you're a responsible owner, you owe it to the horse to find it the right home. That is really, really important, and really important to me. And I bought horses back that I have sold that haven't met the grade because they weren't in the right environment. I believe that's my responsibility even after I've sold them. Yeah, I take that really seriously, but I also take it really seriously in my digital and AI world. I employ a lot of people, and my job, yes, is to the collective and to the business, but I'll always try and look at the individual as well. So, there's a lot of similarities between the two sides of the businesses that I run. Anatomically, you can have the same horse, but a grey horse has more heart, but it also is tiny increments. Years ago, I remember looking into why the cycling teams were doing so well, and they were taking things like their own pillows with them when they were racing just to get that better night's sleep. So it's about lots and lots and lots and lots of little things all adding up to being amazing. But it's also our responsibility as caretakers of those horses to make sure that we've done all the preparation work. Is it fit enough? Have we had it checked from a physio point of view? Have we had it checked from an osteopath point of view? Have we done the correct training leading up to an event correctly? So people say it's a great horse when it goes and wins a competition. Great, but ultimately there's a whole load of other things that happen before that preparation between human and horse. But a great horse is a horse that has that heart, that will go that extra mile for you. Those of you that have watched Avatar, when you have that connection, that's ultimately what you get with a great horse, and they don't come around that often. Firstly, my core principles are exactly the same. I do try and look at the individuals within my human business as well as my equestrian business. The individuals are really important. I love taking people straight out of university. I've had my biggest success with taking people from university and developing them through our businesses. Exactly the same with horses. I've had my best success with horses that I've bred and produced all the way through. And then there's the responsibility to people, the responsibility to animals. It's not just about the money. I've never followed the money. I've always followed the principles and followed the results. I've got to be able to look in the mirror and feel comfortable with me first. And whether I'm dealing with a horse, if it hasn't gone well, the first thing I say is, what did I do wrong? Not what did the horse do wrong? And it's the same with an employee. Various people will have different opinions of me, and I'm very aware that I'm a kind of Marmite kind of guy. But ultimately, I do need to look in the mirror and feel comfortable with me. And sometimes I have to make tough decisions in both sides of this industry. And they're not decisions I make lightly, but it is important that you're comfortable with the decisions that you make. I get enormous rewards from both aspects. I love seeing us taking somebody out of university and them developing through our business. Many don't stay with us. We are a stepping stone to their future careers, but it's lovely to see people go on even outside of our business and become incredibly successful. That I see as success. Success and legacy is the people and the mark that you leave behind. It's not money, it's not material things, it's your family, it's your kids, it's how people view you that you value and see as important in your life, not society as a whole. Those that genuinely you feel akin with, I guess. Fundamentals always matter. They're never going to change. We're just going through an AI revolution, whether that's in the equestrian world or whether that's in the business world. Obviously, in the business world, this is one of our biggest growth areas. In the equestrian area, it's still a growth area. We've got AI tools that can detect lameness within a horse. We've got AI tools which will enable us to quickly develop training programs, quickly assess horses based on the descriptions that we give AI. So I'm using AI in the equestrian industry. I'm using AI to help me research breeding, to look through breeding lines that would have taken me hours and hours and hours to look through. I can do that in seconds now. I can research buyers, so there's a lot of AI that I use in the equestrian world. I also use AI in the business world. So, going back to the same old, ultimately, how do you run a good business? There's no silver bullet. Lots and lots and lots of little decisions all add up if they're the right decisions. And that's the key. No shortcuts. In the equestrian industry, people get hurt physically, financially, and animals get hurt. Simple as that. Everybody's a loser. In the business world, ultimately, I think people get hurt if they try and rush progress, or they're not honest with themselves or with potential customers about what the likely outcomes are. I think it's important to take responsibility. Not everything in life is going to go according to plan, but the first thing you've got to do is ask yourself, what part of that is my fault? It may be 80-20 my fault. It might be 100% my fault. It might be 80-20 another factor. But I think it's important to understand your part in a situation. Ultimately, within business, you don't get results, you ruin relationships, you lose customers, and you don't feel comfortable in yourself. And I think feeling comfortable in yourself is quite a big thing. The biggest loss you can have is loss of peace of mind and perspective. You lose those two things, is it worth it?